Hi, Jerry.
What's going on?
Well, I'm drinking my coffee.
Cubs. I know that wasn't part of it, but
It wasn't. I was actually just taking a drink. I've already had an entire pot of coffee this morning, and well, I've been up since 5, so I've got another.
5.
I've got another pot brewing right now. So let's hurry this episode along so I can fill my cup up.
you
Lord,
like
fill my cup.
The longer we go with the podcast, you're just like, yeah. He was not
so I'm gonna call somebody out. I'm gonna call somebody out. You remember, John too, John Gross, Cherie's boy, right?
Yeah.
Grew up at church. He's a preacher now. He's out there, serving the Lord best of his ability. Got a beautiful wife, Olivia, and a beautiful baby girl. He was the manager of the varsity basketball team when my son was playing. I think John was a senior. Matthew was I think a sophomore. And we're at a school down in Martinsville, and John was managing, and the junior high game was over. So I'm over on the bench. I'm over on the stands with the fans. But I'd run over and got some coffee. There's a Starbucks across the street from the school there. And I'd run over, got some coffee. And they had this new thing called the hot chocolate truffle, which was basically hot chocolate with 2 or 4 shots of espresso in it. And so I got some for John because he didn't drink coffee. It was hilarious. He's over on the other side of he's over on the bench with the varsity team just before the game starts. And he'd already slammed the thing. I mean, in like 10 minutes, he comes over and goes, "Hey, Brother Larry, oh my goodness, have you ever had this? It was amazing." I mean, he was like hopped up. It was so funny. I was rolling at him being all hopped up on caffeine. So, John, I know you don't listen to this, but that was funny.
Oh, man. Well, it has that effect, but now it has the effect on me where I don't get all jittery unless if I have 4 cups of coffee or if I have too much coffee and I'm tired. Those two things that go together. There's one sign that I've had too much caffeine and my eyeball starts twitching. It's really weird.
I don't know if I have any signs of having too much caffeine because I've not reached that stage in life yet.
I also can't drink caffeine past 4 o'clock. So
no, I drink I drink caffeine always. So yeah,
you're just like you don't have any blood. You blood.
when I go order a coffee, I mean, you better believe it's going to be the strongest thing they have. Add 2 shots, okay? I like my coffee strong. I like a lot of caffeine, and it doesn't make me jittery or anything like that. It just makes me want to not kill people. So yeah.
Oh,
I call it my less get along with everybody juice.
You know what?
What?
I am going to give a shout out to a friend of mine that just started a coffee company. He's in the ministry, and I want you all to look him up, like him on Facebook, and you can buy. You have to, as far as I know, he's getting his beans from where he is.
What's his name?
He's in Honduras.
What's the
Berkey?
Berkey? B-E-R?
No. So much.
U-R?
Well, it was always B-I-R-K-Y. I think. But
Berkey?
You got to find it. I don't even know how to get on Facebook right now.
I'm looking. Okay, let's go. Help a brother out here. If it's good coffee, I want to know.
Well, I've not tried it. He literally like 2 days, literally like 2 days ago, he came on Facebook and said he started this. But Honduran coffee. Let's see, Berkey Brew.
Berkey Brew Cafe.
Berkey Brew Cafe. That's him.
I got it.
So like it. Subscribe. I don't know if you subscribe, but
well, right now this is just a place for me to buy some, which I will be buying some post haste.
Well, Berkey Brew though is I mean it's from his name is Chris Burkholtz. He's a missionary to Honduras. So he was a friend of mine. I was in his wedding. He was not in mine. So It's really sad, but no, we didn't really have a lot of friends in our wedding. Just a lot. Our families were so big, but Chris
Burkholz. Okay.
Chris Burkholz.
I am there. Okay, that's
Very
the
good
order.
friend. Been through some trials, and God is using him in a great way. But he's getting his coffee from where he is in Honduras.
Why can't I comment?
Well, because you're probably restricted on Facebook.
I have been restricted on Facebook before because of comments. So this does not surprise me one bit.
That could be. I have never been restricted. Like, what are people going on to Facebook to say? I've never been in Facebook jail. No, nor have I tried.
I'm going to get on the Restructured Podcast Facebook page.
The things on
and
Facebook.
I am going to look up Berkey Brew.
You're gonna lurk up
Berkey Brew
on
the Facebook.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, okay, because you're talking like a mile a minute.
No, I am not.
That quick. You're like talking a mile an hour.
1 mile an hour. Spell his last name B-I-R. Oh, that's not it.
Nope.
B-I-R-K. Burkholz. There. Oh, it was there for a second.
H-O-L-Z.
There he is.
That's how you spell it. All right. So, anyways, this coffee company, and there's also other friends. They're like indirect friends that started the coffee company, and I want to give them a shout out, but I have to buy their coffee first, so I'm not going to do that. But and no, we're not getting a kickback from this, but he is my friend, or at least he was at one time. Probably doesn't like me anymore. Awkward silence.
Well, I'm putting on here a shout out from our podcast. Little Jerry says this is a must try. And for all of you that are listening to the podcast right now going, what is wrong with these two? The answer is quite simple. 2 words, a lot.
Yes.
With God's word as our authority, we, the Restructured Podcast, would like to set forth a proposal to God's people, the New Testament church, to become of a Berean nature in pursuit to know the Scriptures. The church in our generation, we believe, has become a distant shadow of what the body of Christ should look like. It will be our endeavor to bring forth things for God's people to think on and consider as they search God's Word to see if these things are so.
Yes. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into the podcast. We left off, and I've had a good time going through this, and I'm kind of glad, even though I would love to have other people on, but at least for this part, talking through the King James and where we are, and you're honest and open enough to like you can voice your opinion openly. Not all people are that way. Not all people are in the position. And I know that somebody would listen to that and they'd say, well, you should be bold in where you are on everything. Well, yeah, but sometimes our boldness can step on other people. Go back to eating meat. All right. Listen to the church episodes that we left off last season with. So we are going to talk about the King James positions. We're going to finish that up, but I'm really excited about talking about your position. Are you ready?
I am. Are you going to ask questions, or do you just want me to, regurgitate stuff? What's going on?
I want you to regurgitate a little bit, and then I'm going to ask you questions. And I want to say, before we do this, though, there is a fifth King James viewpoint position. So to reiterate, we had the first, which is double inspiration. We could label them as a Ruckmanite. I'm just not big on the names, but we do say for a Calvinist, a Calvin, or an Arminian, we call them Arminian instead of losing your salvation. So the main names that come from people, I get it, Pelagian, that type of thing. But so we could say double inspiration, Ruckmanite, whatever, but double inspiration, strong preservation, position number 2. Then we have the middle of the road, the Textus Receptus. The King James is not does not have error, but the originals are inspired. The 4th position is a preferred King James position. They prefer the King James. They think it's a superior translation, but they're also not against the other positions. They are against the other versions. The 5th, and I know people are going to write it off, because in the IFB crowd, this is the worst position to have in the IFB crowd. Okay? You know what I'm saying?
I do, sadly.
I hope you're listening to that and you're not like, oh, Brother Jared said that this is the worst position to have. No, it's very sarcastic. Okay. But it is the worst in that viewpoint to have. But I want to say something positive about it. And this is the convenient King James position. They are King James convenient. You say, what do you mean? We just do what's convenient? Okay, I say convenient. Maybe it's not the best word there, but that's kind of the label that's been given to a lot of this mindset or this viewpoint. They're convenient on the King James. That doesn't mean it's convenient for them. It just means that they don't see it as an issue. And correct me if I'm wrong, okay, because I think you might know some people in this arena, but they don't see it as needing to be an issue. They really are like, they're content where they are. They're not just King James. They're not King James only whatsoever. If given the opportunity, they would probably go to a newer modern version, but it's not convenient for them to do that, mostly due to causing division among either the brethren or in their congregations. Is that accurate?
I would say that's a very accurate statement. They have no problem with it. This is what they have no problem with the authorized version, and this is what kind of is I find odd. I don't understand. I mean, if you want to have a position to where you prefer another translation, okay, that is entirely between you and God. That is entirely up to you. But why is it that we have to demonize the authorized version in order to say that this version is superior? Because that's the problem with the King James only crowd, the authorized version only crowd, because we want to demonize somebody else for using another translation, and it's a reactionary thing. And I'm not.
So what you're saying, it's both sides are.
Yeah.
They fall into this fallacy of doing that. Yeah.
Right. And so the King James convenient would be somebody that has no issue with someone else using another translation. They simply use the King James, especially in a leadership position, so as to not allow confusion or it's like it's going back to the eating meat, to not offend a brother. It's to help those that don't, feel the way they feel, and just, I don't know, not rocking the boat, for the better,
right,
better terminology. So I mean, and look, and I know a couple guys like that, man. Their churches are thriving. God is blessing. They're sincere servants of Christ, and I have no problem with where they stand in that perspective, not one bit. That's, again, between them and God, and that's really, it all boils down to, no matter what translation you use, you have to have peace with God about where you are in your walk with Christ.
Well, this is where there is a lot of liberty, and I want to say growth, but sometimes we confuse the word growth with we confuse growth and movement as they're the same thing. We say, well, since we're moving, we're changing, that means we're growing. That's not always the case, and I want to say that just because whatever viewpoint you have on the King James Bible, I hope that you would come to that based on truth. But if you are reacting, what Brother Larry just said, if you're reacting either way, like if you're so sick of the contemporary crowd and you're like, it's just so watered down, and I'm swinging to the King James, that pendulum swings really hard. Okay. And if you're moving through these viewpoints, just be careful. Okay. I'm not going to rip you. I'm just going to say, just be careful.
Yeah.
And if your basis is truth, as you study out truth, I know this, that some of you would say, well, I feel betrayed. I feel betrayed because maybe from the other perspective, I was King James only, went to a King James only Bible college or seminary and really pushed one viewpoint. But I was told, and what was demonized to me was this other viewpoint in a way that as I've looked at it, I don't see it that way. And so you could feel betrayed, which would cause you to react. Either way, you're reacting and you start to move. Where I went to college, I've gotten a lot of flack because of where I went mostly to college. And it's like, I named my son after the man. And when I named him after, the question came up, well, what if he goes liberal? And I had an answer. I don't care. And not that I don't care that he would go liberal or change. I don't care. It's okay. I'm not going to change my son's name. But I'm going to keep that just because I would not be where I'm at in my relationship with Christ if it wasn't for Eric Capacey. And that name is divisive. Eric Capacey now has I don't know that it's a Bible college anymore. I think it's a liberal arts college, Champion College. I think it's Champion Christian College now. When I was there, it's Champion Baptist Institute. And I'm not saying positive or negative. Either way, I love Eric Capacey. That doesn't mean I line up with him on everything, but I love him. I love him to death. He's running for mayor in Hot Springs. Okay. I'm not quite of the same viewpoint of like going into that, but he's the pastor of the church still. It's like one of these things that's a side note. I'm going to get an ADD, but the reason I'm bringing this up is the pendulum that we watched move. He went, we had classes that were taught to us by the Ruckmanite viewpoint, double inspiration. And it was only that viewpoint. And half of it didn't make sense. And to me, and I'm not saying that viewpoint doesn't make sense. I'm saying the teachers, I love them. One of the teachers is a wonderful evangelist. Love him. I mean, he's seeing young people saved left and right, and that's his lane. He doesn't belong teaching a King James Bible class. Okay. And I love him. His name's Brother Freddie. I'll stop there. I love him to death and I would not change him, but he didn't belong really teaching a Bible class. And he taught us that. And we're like, this doesn't make any sense. And then we had another guy they weren't teaching the right thing to us. They were teaching a subjective viewpoint. And I went to 3 colleges, and all of those colleges taught a subjective viewpoint when it came to these issues. They were not being objective. And it's like we're scared to let kids just dive into truth. And truth should not be scary. It shouldn't. I don't know why we are trying to cloud. We call it protect, but sometimes we're controlling. And if that statement, or if this goes over your head right now, that's fine. This has just been a lot of this podcast, a lot of where we are. But Eric Capacey changed in a big way. And when he went, it had to be 10 years ago when he came out, not King James anymore.
It was just about to, because I just started pastoring and I actually went over to preach for a guy that is really close to, he's been on the podcast, Pastor John Horton, over in Malvern, who's not far from Hot Springs. And he was telling me about the change was going on at that point in time.
Yeah. And it's
because folks were leaving Gospel Light in Hot Springs and going to
Gospel Light in
Malvern. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is where John Horton pastors.
Right.
Or did
he started? No, he started it, and Eric helped him start the church. He started under Gospel Light Hot Springs.
Yep. Well, John Horton was our he taught in our class.
Right.
in the first year of of college there. Well, it was the first year of the college. I was like a junior at that time. But
So yeah, it was about 10 years ago. That's an accurate timeline.
But then the crazy thing is, when I went through those classes at Champion, it was 10 years before that. So I mean, you're seeing 10 years. I'm pretty sure in the last couple of years that Eric Capacey has joined the Southern Baptist Convention, and we can rip him. We can sit here and be like, let me tell you all these things. Well, it's just a different viewpoint. And I'm going to say this. I will say I disagree with him. Okay. There's no qualms about it. I disagree with where Brother Capacey is on a lot of things, but I also disagree with a lot of pastors I preach for on some things, maybe not as many, but I love them. And I love Eric Capacey. And it's like, it's not my place to really be grieved whether he moves from the King James or not, because I know where I'm at with it. And well, I'm okay.
You said fine. Something about Brother Freddie. You were talking about him, and it hit me because you said some people just need to stay in their lane. Literally, the title of my lesson last night in our Bible study is "Staying in Your Lane," coming out of 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Because we have a problem. We feel like it's our job to police God's people.
Yeah.
But it's not my job to catch people in sin. It's my job to coach people out of sin. It's my job to help them know how to walk with Christ. And the best way for me to do that is to sincerely and fervently walk with Christ to the best of my ability, knowing that I am accountable to him and to him only.
Yeah.
I know there are people that disagree with where I am, not just in my Bible perspective, but in my methodology, in my theological viewpoints. I know that people disagree with me, and that's okay. And there are people that I disagree with that I love dearly, like you were talking about with Eric Capacey. I mean, it's okay. And this is what, I think we've tried to voice this since we've started doing the podcast together. You can have a disagreement. You can disagree with someone and still fellowship with them and love them and be an encouragement to them. How can anyone know truth if they don't see truth? Okay. If I don't show forth truth in my life, then, and if I don't exude Christ, then how is anyone going to know? And if I'm so hyper separatist that because someone doesn't line up exactly where I am, I can't be around them, what am I afraid of? Am I afraid that they're going to influence me? Listen, they might influence you for good. I've had people that, man, there's a pastor that I know I don't line up with a lot in doctrine, but he has helped me greatly in my walk with Christ. And some of the books he's written, and I follow him on social media, and I mean, it's some great stuff. And I know if I ever met him, I'd hug his neck and tell him thank you for being used by God to speak into my life. But if I'm so separatist that I can't allow someone like that to speak in my life, if I didn't allow, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, Paul David Tripp and Dangerous Calling, and a couple other books I've read of his, if I didn't allow him to be used by God to speak into my life because he's Presbyterian and lines up more of Reformed theology, things like that, then I would not be where I'm at today. And I would dare say I don't even know if I'd be in the ministry still, because God used that greatly to change the way that I view my walk with Christ. Because we too often want to view our walk with Christ according to how someone else is walking with Christ. Man, we got to stay in our own lane. It's my job to walk with Christ, and I'm where I'm at.
In the same token, go ahead. No,
I'm where I'm at in my walk, and you're where you're at in your walk. That doesn't mean that we can't encourage each other in our walk, even though we're in different places. Yep. And again, it's not my job to say, "Hey, you're in the wrong place where you're walking." No, it's my job to stay where I'm supposed to be and to hold up Christ.
Yeah. In the same token, though, there are some people that there are a lot of people that we should warn, and you should say it would not be good for you to read Paul David Tripp.
Again,
okay? The reason I'm not ripping him, I'm just saying, there are some people that they've struggled coming out of Reformed theology, or they've struggled with that, and it is a struggle to them, and they're just better off personally.
But what is that though? Those things are spiritually discerned, and if you're not walking with Christ, you're not going to spiritually discern those things.
Well, what I'm saying is there are some people that are good for me that are not good for you. There are people for me to listen to. And so I know that Paul Tripp is good for you, but for some, it may not be, because if you're not settled, and I'll just say it this way, one reason, and this is not the only reason, one way or the other, there are some good things that even David Platt, that guys from that crowd that they say radical, it's a great book, but I know a lot of people that have dived into that, and we are men, we are human, and we could say, well, you need to be walking with Christ. Yes, we need to walk with Christ, but in our weak moments, we will rely on that crowd or that theology or that ideology very easily. So if we are in a vulnerable state, then I would just say be careful. Either way, be
Well,
careful reading Peter Ruckman. Be careful reading Jack Hiles. Be careful reading Paul Tripp. Be careful listening to Alistair Begg. Be careful with John Piper. Be careful with anybody. Why? Because they're men, and we are men. So that equation, that's all I'm bringing up. You know
right.
what I mean?
And I understand and I agree. But again, I go back to the point that, and we're getting way off topic here, but I think this is some good stuff.
But
We are
this.
If truth is truth, okay, and I'm not gonna, it's not my job to say, hey, you shouldn't be reading that, okay,
right,
because I can't do that. I can't speak into someone's life that way, because I don't know where they're at. And if truth is truth and they're in a true pursuit of Jesus Christ, then even if they do go the wrong direction because of some influence from the wrong person, God can get them back to where they're going to be. And it might be that little trip down the wrong way was an element that helped them eventually down the road. Because there are some directions that I've gone the wrong way, and it was in that direction that I realized how important it is to stay close to truth. And so whatever it is you're reading, if it doesn't line up with the Word of God, then you got to take those things with a grain of salt. You can, what was it? Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, or chew the meat, spit out the bones.
A lot of
whatever you want to say.
A lot of commentaries and things that are said in any time period. If you do not throw out the consideration of the free will of man, you have the sovereignty of God and the free will of man. I'm not getting into a Calvinist or Reformed debate. I'm just saying, if you throw these out in this context, if you throw out the free will of man, then you say, well, God's totally got it under control. It's okay. Just listen to whatever you want. And that's not what you're saying. I mean,
that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is
the other extreme is like, don't listen to anybody, because every man is wrong. And it's like, there is a balance to weaving through, and every man is capable. And I'm going to quote for our Reformed friends, John Piper. What is the depraved individual? What is our human nature capable of doing? Everything bad. Now, he says it way more eloquent, and I say it like a dum-dum. Okay. But we're capable of, even in the ministry as Christians, we are capable of attaching an opinion, because we do it all the time, attaching an opinion and not truth, but we attach the opinion to truth. And so then we share that as truth. And it's like this, it goes out, and all that we are saying, all that I'm saying, I'm not going to speak for you at all. And I'm on the same page, but it's like, be careful, wade it through the Spirit of God, or filter it through the Spirit of God, filter it through the Word of God. Be careful, but follow truth. Ask yourself questions that keep you headed towards truth, not men, but truth. Okay. That's my advice. I know what you're saying. We can look at the other viewpoint and say, I just really think it's important to say that you could be in a dangerous position jumping into, we see it nowadays a lot with Reformed theology, or the Reformed crowd. People are jumping into that. They don't even know, but it's a comfortable place for them to be. And so it's like,
I'm gonna ask you some questions. All right.
Okay.
Because
real
we've definitely
quick.
gotten off topic, but I want to ask you some questions. Have you always been going the right direction since you've walked with Christ?
No.
Have you allowed an influence
Hold on.
or
Are you
something?
guiding this? Are you guiding? 'Cause
Oh,
I'm
I
not
know
doing
exactly what I'm
guided
doing.
questions. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do guided questions.
Why
though,
not?
Because
Why
that's
not?
manipulation.
I'm not okay. I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to make my point, and not to manipulate you, but to. I mean, listen. Are you where you're at today because of Eric Capacey?
He's one of those things.
Are you where you're
He's one of
at
the things
today?
that God's used.
That's what I'm saying. God used all these things, okay? And while you haven't always been going the right direction, but God eventually got you back on the right path. And guess what? Tomorrow you might head off the wrong direction.
God, but the point that I was saying is that God did get me on the right path, but there was a choice of yielding. And I'm not even saying I'm on the right path now.
That's
Okay.
that, I go back to the point to where if we're in a pursuit, an honest pursuit of Christ, okay, yeah, the depraved flesh is still gonna take us a place that we ought not go. Okay, but if we're in an honest pursuit of Christ, and I'm not talking about taking away free will, I'm not talking about anything like that. If our will is to follow Christ, okay, then even when we get detoured, all right, his foreknowledge always puts something in our path to get us back to our predestined path of being like Christ. Now we have the choice. We have the choice.
Things there.
Right, that's what I was talking about. What if just a conversation with somebody, or man, even a post on social media? There's so many different avenues that God uses to get our attention. A trial, something. It could be consequences for the wrong choice, the sin choice that we made, the sinful choice that we made.
I wouldn't all these things. To say that God,
and we know that all things work together. I'm not saying okay. What I'm saying is he ordains the things that are going to point us back to him. He didn't ordain the wrong direction. I'm not saying that. Okay. He ordains the things that point us back to him. The wrong direction is always us. That's never God. Okay. That's never God. And if that is what was coming across, I apologize. Okay. The wrong direction is always us choosing us instead of him. But if we're in an honest pursuit of Christ, then we're going to come to that realization, because he's going to put something in our path to say, hey, dummy, you're going the wrong way. Okay. At least that's been the case in my life. Okay. There's plenty of times I've chose the wrong path. I've been detoured in some way, shape, or form, but God has always put something to get my attention and to say, Larry, come back this way. And that's again, it's not my job to police someone's walk. It's my job. It's my job to help someone to maybe help them walk with Christ better.
Let me ask you a question. And this is not guided at all. This is literally
guide the questions. I don't care.
No, I'm not. No,
you're gonna bother me.
I'm not going to guide you. From a pastor's perspective, would you say that there is a time where would you ever warn? Like, would you say, okay, you go into this? And I don't know, regardless, I don't know where you are on things, but if you were to, I'm trying to think of an extreme example. Jim Jones. No, I'm kidding.
Creflo Dollar.
Creflo Dollar. That's okay. There you go.
Yes, I've been in this position.
Would you warn somebody?
Yes,
you know what I'm asking.
And I have.
Without
that's me coaching. Look, if I'm watching a guy, I've coached basketball for years and years. Okay. If I'm watching a guy dribble with his left hand and constantly get the ball stolen from him because he's trying to learn with his left hand, look, you do that in practice. When we're in a game, you dribble with your right hand predominantly and protect the ball. Okay. I'm going to coach him. Well, I'm still going forward. I'm still dribbling. Yeah, but you're doing it in a way that's going to hurt you. Okay. So put it in the right hand. So yeah, I'm going to coach people. Like I said, it's not my job to catch people in sin. It's my people to coach people out of sin.
So you're bringing up the difference between coaching, teaching. It'd be like coaching, teaching,
and policing, right?
Leading versus policing.
We lead.
Like we lead. Control. You're talking about leading as an under shepherd, leading as a. I mean, there's one moment where it's the pastor's called the shepherd, in Scripture, and it's like you're talking about that versus control.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I see. I think I think it's a good conversation. if it made sense with anything.
But see, now while we did get off track, and I know we're going to end this episode, while we did get off track, really, we didn't, because all that really needs to be said when we get into why Larry's perspective is where it's at.
Yeah. Now, I think it's going to be better to just say this. I'm going to say this. I never got to the positive about the convenient. I kind of did, but I didn't get to the positive that I thought about the convenient. And maybe we can share that right now, and then we'll close. Okay. I'm going to share my positive. Okay. I will say the convenient, somebody could throw stones at them, and I'm not even going to say the negative because I don't want to feed anything. Okay. It can be negative, but anything can be negative, but it can be negative, the convenient, because you're not sure where you stand. But the positive, and I'm going to refer back to what I referred to earlier, go back and listen to the last few episodes of Being the Church, last season. We talk about the meat. We talk about, and I have friends that would say, well, if it's right, it's right. It's wrong, it's wrong. And it's like, yeah, it's right to you, but it's wrong for somebody else. And so why would somebody have the King James convenient position? Because they don't want to be a stumbling block to somebody. Would that be accurate? I think that's positive. Well, you don't want to be a stumbling block.
I agree with saying, and I think a simple way to say it is, the good part is they love people enough to hold a ground somewhere for the people.
Yeah. Before anybody goes off and thinks that Brother Jared is convenient, King James convenient, okay, just stop your mind. But it doesn't matter, because honestly, I'm just bringing a positive. I know guys that are King James convenient. I don't know many, but they don't. It's their division is not found in the manuscripts. Their division is found with Christ. And what I mean is they take a strong stand on Christ. The ones that I know on the gospel.
It's quite a biblical view in that aspect.
Not being a stumbling block. And so, well, this was like good precursor for your viewpoint. So
yeah, and then we'll wrap up the 5 viewpoints with the next episode, right?
I think this is really wrapping it up. This is wrapping up the 5 viewpoints, because then we're going to get into your viewpoint, and then we're going to get into my viewpoint.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So this is like the part 3, the end of the 5 positions.
Part 3, I'm on like, I think it's part 6 or 7 in our Bible standard.
I broke it to the part 3 of the Bible position.
We really should start talking about titles more when we go to label our.
Close.
We're not. No, we're doing our own thing, man.
I broke it up because I don't want the parts to be lost. I would love for. I know there's some episodes people aren't going to listen to. Some are going to be like, and I see it on the numbers that we have come in. There are some episodes that just people really listen to, and it just gains steam. For me, I would love everybody to listen to all of them, but I understand if you don't. If you're going to listen to any on the King James, I would love for you to listen to these last 3. And I know if you're listening to this one right now, then this is very, very weird, because you've already listened to the last 3. But you know what I'm saying? That's why I'm bringing
this one and the next
title.
2.
The last 2, and then I'd love for you to listen. I just love for you to keep listening. Okay, but if you're going to break it up, the last 3 go together. So that's the only reason I broke them up in the 3 separate parts. Still with the King James. Yeah, that was my reasoning. We probably could have had this discussion off.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.